Any day now. There we go.
Oh, good.
It's about to start coming through. I'm just waiting because there's no video. Come on, Wiva side. You got this. There we go.
Okay.
Make sure some settings are in place. Cool. Awesome sauceum. Make sure that's good. All right. Cool. We are officially QG.
All right, ready?
Yes, sir. Wait. Did the thing happen on the wall?
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was up there.
Mm-mm.
The cat?
You might not be able to see it.
Yes, yes.
It shows in the wide video, I guess.
Good.
Mm-hmm.
Good.
Easy, ready?
Fight with my mic real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Get my hair right. My hair. That might be the best George Clooney quote, honestly, from any movie or anything outside of a movie is when basically in Oh Brother Where Art Thou, when he wakes up and they're all like hiding in, I think it's like his nephew or his cousin's barn or some shit. And the mob shows up and he like wakes up with a hairnet in. Because, obviously he's a Dapper Dan man. And he's like, my hair.
Pomade.
Yeah. God damn, I'm a Dapper Dan man. Yeah. Well, this place is just a geographical anomaly.
Oddity.
It's 3 days from everything.
3 days from everywhere. That's such a good movie.
Love it. I fucking love it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, my
They
brother.
done made him a horny toad.
They done turned him into a horny toad. So good.
Alrighty. Okay.
All right.
Let's do this.
All right, brother.
Pew pew pew! Pow pow pow! Gosh dang it, alien, get off my horse! You gosh done it trying to steal my cattle! Gunshots and whirring machines flying overhead, the Wild West was full of strange phenomena and unexplained circumstances. Trains were choo-chooing around, and cars were not far from zooming around. The Wild West was just on the precipice of all of the new inventions. So get out your guns, comb your mustache, shoe your horse, and let's get into wild UFO cases in the Mild West.
Yeah.
Good morrow, and welcome to the Black Cat Report in episode 113. I am Joey, one of your hosts, and with me today is the hostess with the mostest. No, literally owns the most hostess cupcakes, Gil.
Pew pew. Hello, everybody. Ding. I hope you all got your chewing tobacco ready. I hope you've had a beautiful day out on the range. I hope you've had a beautiful day with the range in you. And I hope you are holding your Second Amendment tight. Because tonight, you're going to fucking need it.
Mm-hmm. We're actually not even leaving the Wild West because we were just in the Wild West the last 2 weeks. So we're staying.
They don't know that. Oh, actually, they do. Yes.
Actually,
but this week, it's the Mild West.
This week it is the Mild West. So we are also very sorry for the lateness of our most recent episodes and want to say it's because we're so busy with our lives and we're struggling to get our episodes recorded. So we apologize. And we want to say we're going to get them out to you eventually. It's worth the wait.
It's true. And to be honest, preparations for Parapalooza whooped my fucking ass. That is no joke. For anybody out there that does podcasts or does any type of entertainment or media where you have guest interviews, it can be just a pain in the ass. There's always, rescheduling that's happening. There's always technical errors. Time zones, holy shit. You want to find out the trouble with time zones, that's a great way to do it. A lot of things like that. And that was the the bane of my existence and the pride at the same time. Setting up all the tech and handling all the submissions and getting everything ready. All that said, it was completely fucking worth it. Holy shit. We went for 5.5 hours straight. I think in total, not counting a few technical errors, we had like 8 or 9 guests come on the show, back to back to back, some of them bleeding into one another. It was fucking awesome. And to be honest, we started Beer Booze Boogeyman as a way to kind of connect with the community, and Parapalooza was a way for us to connect our community, right, as like content creators and stuff like that, to the broader community, and kind of have this speed dating type of event where everybody just kind of got to hop in and basically hear from folks from all over the paranormal community, from content creators to researchers to other podcasters, and kind of get like a taste test of everyone. But at the same time, friends, like actual friends, were made that night between all these folks from different communities that would have otherwise probably never met. It was a huge fucking success. Stressful as fuck, but a huge success. And Joey, by the way, didn't just take 1 for the team that night. He took 2 for the team, then 3 for the team, then 4 for the team. He took an entire 5th of whiskey for the team. And there will be a highlights reel coming out all like fairly fucking soon, if it's not out already, of Joey progressively getting more inebriated over the night,
as well as changing costumes too.
It was fantastic. From like a suit to what was it? It was like a Southwest cowboy. I feel like you changed into something else at some point. I don't remember.
Sailor of some sort, I think.
I think
don't
so.
Remember. I don't honestly remember because it was a wild night.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, we were word for you. But Joey, thanks to Joey's incredible efforts and thanks to the generosity of everybody that tuned in, we managed to raise almost $600 over that night. Like, we were averaging over $100 an hour in terms of donations for the Night House investigation, which, by the way, here's the freaking thing. It's going to happen, right? We hit our internal bare minimum to make it happen. It's going to be happening. It's going to be September 28th this year, right? It's going to be this month when this episode's coming out. It's technically not too late to get on the list, because if you are a Patreon member, right? So patreon.com/Black Cat Report. Super easy to find us. There'll also be a link in the show notes. If you're a Patreon member, even at the $1 movie night tier, you get access to the live investigation, because we're all a part of Beer Booze Boogeyman, and the money's going to support us on the trip anyways. So it's not too late. You actually kind of get to sneak in after, the deadline for the Indiegogo campaign. So if you want to hop in, if you want to see some crazy ass shit and a crazy ass night of events, you still have a chance. So I just wanted to throw that out there, and also give a very, very, very special thank you from the bottom of our hearts to all of the folks who have been going out of their way, who have been, donating to us in the campaign, who have already joined our Patreon. And even if they haven't been able to make a financial contribution, we realize it. Like, funds are tight right now. The economy, totally in the shitter, right? It's below the shitter at this point. It is the shit leaking in your basement because your landlord won't fix the pipes, all right? The economy's shit. And if you can't donate, we totally understand. We see all the folks that have been resharing all the stories and all the reels from everything, and we seriously appreciate you. And if you have reshared anything, reposted, sent notifications, anything like that, shoot us a message, preferably on Instagram, because that's where we see shit the quickest. We will add you to the list. Like, honestly, it's the fact that you took time out of your day, that you helped promote our content, that's as good as money in our mind. So,
True.
Hey, hit us up. Be like, hey, I shared this on this date, or just send us a copy of it, or whatever. But we will respond back to you as soon as possible and get your email so that we can get you on the list, so you can get you can be in all the fun. So Yeah. That's my long rant about that. But thank you guys. Seriously, thank you.
all.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, seriously, we appreciate you guys. Well, today is going to be a nice little mismatch of stories, and weirdly enough, for my part, it's a UFO encounters episode, which Gil is super happy about.
I have been pestering Joey since before the show even started to do a UFO episode. And I'm not going to say he avoids it like the plague because I know how many times he had COVID. But yeah, it's been a struggle. It's been a struggle until I grabbed a book and I was like, Joey, this pretty much has your name written all over it. Joey, do you want to tell him what the title of the book is that managed to finally coerce you into doing this episode?
The title of the book is Lost UFO Cases of the Old West by Noah Torres and John Lemay, which will also be our source for today's episode. And as Gil so rightly handed me this handbook, as we like to say, we are going to hop into a few of the stories now. So bunch of stories in this book, and I've picked out a few that I think will be amazing to share with you guys and, you know, make some jokes about because some of them are fucking funny. So we're going to enjoy them here.
Hell yeah.
Well, the first story we're going to get into today is called UFO Orders Takeout. Well, on April 15th of 1897 in Haslett, Michigan, near the banks of Lake Lansing, a hotel owned by William H. McGiveron had a run-in with a very hungry alien. William was sleeping in his hotel in one of the rooms and was suddenly woke up by a loud tapping on his bedroom window, kind of like a drive-through. Well, he got up and walked over to the window and opened it. As he opened it up, he was blinded by an insanely bright light. And as he regained his sight, he heard a voice that was just, a bit above the window. There was no railing or way to get on the roof from there, right? So nobody could have been up there in front of his window. This is also 1897. There is no electricity yet to speak of. And for the most part, there isn't much that could light up the room like the light he was describing. So, as he looked up at the craft, a voice called out to him, Can you please prepare 48 egg sandwiches and a kettle of coffee and also throw in a corkscrew? Ordering through the window.
And that, my friends, became the first Sonic.
It did, yeah. And honestly, I can't imagine, to be fair, it's probably 3, 4 a.m. probably about-ish and during the night. So he's sitting there, it's about when the bars close.
Those aliens are drunk.
They're wasted, and they are hungry as shit. And it makes sense because they want 48 eggs and also coffee.
Yeah.
And then they're still also trying to continue to drink because they want the corkscrew for them wine bottles.
Yeah, well, I mean, that tracks. I honestly wonder, okay, if this was in another day and age, if this wasn't, if this wasn't,
this was yesterday.
Yeah, if this wasn't in the 1890s, right? How many folks out there listening to this who work in the service industry, right, have had nightmares exactly fucking like this? Right? This is a premonition of this dude's grandchildren, like their nightmares.
Yep. William's grandchildren sitting there in a drive-through at freaking cookout at 3 a.m. and there's wasted people coming. I'd like 48 hamburgers, please, with sides of quesadillas. It's literally.
Oh my God, I love it.
Well, now William could still not clearly make out what or who was talking to him because the light was so bright. And there was also like a foggy cloud cover, so he couldn't still make out what was going on. Well, as he was still trying to make out looking out the window and what this was, the ship yelled out again. This time, I guess they were trying to tell William where he could drop off the food when it was finished. It said,
Just leave it on the porch. We won't be home.
Almost. We are hovering above you in a ship, and we are trying to prepare one of our wings, which was damaged by a bullet from a hunter's gun. Eh?
Oh God, they were Canadian aliens.
Now, I know why you're asking why I'm giving them Canadian accents, right? Well,
yeah. Well, they said A.
Well, I added that in. I just added that in myself.
Okay, gotcha.
But
Gotcha.
I added that in because as soon as they placed the order for the food, they lowered the bucket, and they got, they lowered a bucket to them, and in the bucket was several Canadian coins.
Oh my God, they literally Buffalo Billed that shit or Buffalo Bobbed that shit. It puts the eggs in the bucket.
Yeah.
Oh my God, this is great.
And he made them the order too, and gave them the order.
Are you fucking no?
No.
No.
And he did. Yeah, he put it in the bucket and gave it to them.
How did he have so many eggs ready? How did he fit all those eggs in a bucket?
I mean, I'm sure this is over like 48 hours. Or not 48 hours, but like an hour or two that he fried up the eggs. But eggs are pretty quick to cook, and depending on, if you've already got stuff ready, he probably had to heat up the
This is
the
the
flat top if
1800s.
he had one.
That's what I'm saying.
had-
Like he had to go get a wood fire stove going and shit. You know what I'm saying? Probably had to walk out and like find that many eggs. All right, you don't got. Back in those days, like you don't have. You know what I'm saying? What did he do? Go up and start shaking his chickens? Be like, come on, they're hungry.
I do imagine he had a store of some eggs because this was a restaurant hotel.
That's a lot. Oh,
if
that's
it was
true.
It was a restaurant hotel used to people passing through.
Wow.
And I don't know how other people didn't wake up during this part. Maybe they did.
Yeah.
Maybe like part of it is like he just didn't give that information of what happened about these people waking up. But I would have, for sure, this time woken up if I saw huge beams of light around my windows. Yeah.
No, I mean, I would obviously make their order, and this is some Betty Andreessen shit. It's like they require food, they need food, but then it turns out to be they actually wanted a book or whatever. But this is a Betty Andreessen reaction, to UFOs. This is incredible, and like I like to think because it is like 3:30, 4 in the morning, right? Mm-hmm. There probably was a baker, right? That was like strolling in to this place. They were getting set up, and like they were getting ready to start, I don't know, making whatever the fuck bread or something for the day. And they're just like, hey, what are you doing up so early? And they're like, oh, we got a food order. And they're like, oh, okay. It's like, wow, we got a big order. Yeah, I don't know. I got to take it. And they just never explained that it was via a bright light UFO and bucket at the second floor window.
No, definitely not. No, probably just did it and was like, okay. Oh, I got, yeah, sure.
I mean, you don't ask questions at your job when like a food order comes in. You're just like, that's weird. Whatever, keep going.
Well, funny enough, after he delivered it and they delivered the coins to him, he did ask a question. I think, honestly, one of the things that we would all ask as we sit there and see a big UFO in there. He got up the nerve to ask, "Can I come aboard your ship?"
Hell yeah, dude.
Finally, right? Yeah,
I like this dude.
Mm-hmm.
I like this dude. Okay.
Yeah. Well, they had a swift reply, and they responded with,
"Oh no!"
And then they flew away and left him.
Oh, that is rude.
They were wasted. They were like, "Fuck this guy. He ain't coming up here."
Yeah, that is fucking rude.
He just made them 48 eggs at 3 or 4 in the morning before they were open. 48 egg sandwiches, sorry. So I would say that's probably 2 eggs per sandwich.
Paid him in the wrong currency.
Woke
him up.
And
so many things.
And a pot of coffee, too. A kettle of coffee, so.
I love it. I fucking love it.
Yeah. And he didn't get any reward besides the little bit of Canadian coins. And he's probably just like, the fuck is this? What? Just let me in your ship. That'll be payment enough. But no, they were gone. And they flew away. And that's the end of that story. That was the
Don't forget to leave a review.
Story. Yeah. Yeah. Can you leave a review on my Expedia? Nope. Bad eggs.
That's fantastic.
Open 24 hours.
And there's something.
Hours.
There's something too. So I guess to like kind of preemptively, and I haven't read these stories. I don't know, but I imagine some of them might be similar to this. I'm just gonna go out
Hmm.
on a limb. We have to look at things in terms of high strangeness, right? So we hear a lot of high strangeness encounters where it's like people asking for really weird fucking things, like "Can I see your pen?" And they're just like
Hmm.
obsessed with somebody's clicky pen, and they're, "Can I please have this?" And they're all weird and shit about it. Um, those things kind of have like an ooky spooky vibe to
Hmm.
us in a relative sense today. But I'm sure in like 100 years, 150, 120 years, people will look at high strangeness stories from today and be like, that's just fucking comical. That's just kind of weird
Yeah.
because we're so detached from it.
Hmm.
Something like this back then had a very high strangeness kind of like vibe and tone, and again, like that's the thing about high strangeness, it meets you in a relative sense wherever the fuck you happen to be at. So that's so some of these things, they're comical because they're old-timey, but just like when we
Yeah.
hear about serial killers from the 17 and 1800s and it's like kind of like comical, it's
Yeah.
because
It's
it's
jokes.
old-timey. It's not because
Hmm.
it wasn't less horrifying at the time, right?
Yeah. Well, imagine it's harder to make jokes about people that are still alive and victims that are still alive. We in a way dehumanize the
The
past in some
past,
ways.
yeah.
We have
Yeah.
to live with it, because if you thought about
True.
the Black Plague and you thought about it and didn't dehumanize it, and you were just
Yeah.
like, it killed literally half of the world, at least half
Yeah.
of the known world at that time by us white folks. um so it's like, if we didn't think of it in a joking kind of way, or oh, like this is just an interesting point of history, I
Mm-hmm.
don't think we'd be able to live our lives. So
Yeah.
we just need to sometimes make jokes about it, like we do here. We like to do that.
100%, 100%. But the
Hmm.
actual like, like I think about like the contracts, right? And like the
Hmm.
situation with the first Italian serial killer of like the
Yeah.
modern era, and like him getting people to come into a warehouse to look over contracts, and like
Yeah. Yeah.
basically they were contracts, and then just like killing them with like a pipe and shit like that. Like it's
Hmm.
kind of comical the way that a lot of those murder situations were set up, but they were like very fucking creepy and spooky,
Yeah, and people were
relatively.
scared. Like he
Yeah.
came in, was killing with an axe. He was an axe murderer.
And that's right. That's
And
right.
he
Pineapple
just set
related.
up these things. Yeah, he set up all these situations that, like, we'd see it now with known serial killers, from the
Mm-hmm.
80s and 70s, where it's like, that's fucking spooky. And researching into
Totally.
like trucker serial killers, same thing. Maybe in like 200 years, that people just be like, what idiots. It's kind of funny, just the idea that's behind what happened. Never takes away the victim's struggle and
Mm-mm.
stuff like that, but just takes
No.
away the sometimes the sting of it.
And in this case, the victim was that poor inn owner who had to wake up
Yep.
at 3:30 in the morning. Which back in the day, that was probably 2 hours before his alarm. Basically,
Yeah.
his alarm was gonna go off. He was probably waking up at like fucking 5:30 or 6, anyways. And so he's like, "Oh, come on."
I just imagine that his alarm was just literally a string attached to like the
One of
shutters
Herbert's
attached to like
kids.
his chicken that's awake, that's in there, and as soon as the chicken like moves its head to wake up, the string
Mm.
pulls and then drops an egg directly on his head, cracks open. He's like, all right, I'm awake.
Another day, another $50.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And that's every morning. He has to set that up every night so that the egg smashes on his head is to wake him up, because that's the only way.
A lot of people don't know this. Rube Goldberg, one of his first guests, taught him a lot.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Well, in our next written account, which is very short but highly entertaining and interesting, this was also in Michigan. This was also in Michigan, this time in Howard City, and about 1 day later that this was observed. So maybe
Mm.
this could have been the same UFO.
Okay.
And it's actually only an hour and a half drive from the first story, but hour and a
Where
half
was the
drive in
first
our
story at?
time. The first story was in. Sorry, I need to go back up to it. It
No
was in
worries. No worries.
Haslett, Michigan, near Lake Lansing.
Okay. Thank you. Go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
Gotta
Yep, this one's in
check a
Howard
a
City.
lead that's working out in my head.
Mm-hmm. He's working on getting more UFO stories that could be attached to this.
Oh, baby.
Mm-hmm. Well, they're probably just, oh, wait. It was only an hour and a half drive from the first story. It does seem to maybe connect a little by the sheer amount of egg sandwiches that were ordered, honestly. Though, I just want to say they were probably just wasted and trying to recover from that massive hangover the next day.
Yeah.
Well, at 4:30 a.m. on April 16th, in a field near Howard City, a strange flying contraption landed in an empty field. After it landed, a very, 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 very tall humanoid, about 9.5 feet tall, stumbled out and fell over. No, I'm just kidding. He didn't stumble out. He just walked out. That would have been funny if he did. It would have been really funny if he stumbled out and was like, egg sandwiches didn't help.
I can't believe she left me.
Well, as farmers watched from far, far away, because no one wanted to get close to it, being afraid of this giant thing, it started vocalizing with a kind of whimsical, almost singing voice. They described it as a repetition of like bellowing, which to me sounds like he was just a completely wasted humanoid trying to recover. Like, oh, I just want to get up and why is everything so bright? Why is the coffee didn't help? Well, it literally just stayed there throughout the whole next morning and whole day. It didn't really move.
Whoa.
By all accounts, just standing there and bellowing. I really think it was just feasibly hungover and ready for some greasy ass food that it never got.
What was it bellowing?
It was like it was just like
I think of like
wasn't really,
bellowing.
It was kind of
as like the description of a sound, like echoing, right? Like that's like the description of a sound, but like what's echoing, So like bellowing is like I get that it's like it's like there's a lot of expression behind it, but like what was he saying? I want to know.
I'm fucking drunk. And I can honestly say that's probably how it felt.
Eggs!
It was kind of how I felt.
I ate too many eggs!
Oh, my stomach! Is probably how I felt on Sunday after Parapalooza, to be fair. Oh,
that's how you felt Saturday night, actively during Parapalooza.
Actively, yeah. I was like, ugh.
So my God. I love
right
Joey's camera. Joey's camera blacked out at the same time he did. Behind the scenes info for you guys.
Actually, yes, I did. And I was like, I'll be back. And I never came back.
If you do watch that 5.5 hour live stream, good on ya. But also there is a point, it's only one point, where I actually step away from the live stream. It's about an hour-ish. I don't know. Time's weird. But it's a while after Joey disappeared. I straight up I ran downstairs, went out on my front porch and called Joey, and I was like, dude, are you okay? Like, what the fuck is going on right now? Homie took a lot for the team, but it was a fucking success. Goddamn. So I imagine this guy had his own Parapalooza at some point, and that's what took him out.
He did.
Yes.
He seems like he's actively dead, like I was on Saturday night. Just actively dead. Trying to eat some pizza to make sure I can be okay the next morning, and it does not work out. And just like this guy, crowds of farmers gathered around watching him, right? So at a moment, somebody got up the nerve to actually get close to the giant, and he was greeted by a huge, swift kick in the ass, and thus broke the person's hip. Yeah.
Wait, so the giant kicked the person that approached him?
And broke his hip. Yeah, and was like, get the fuck out of here. This is classic signs of a hangover, because the person getting close to him was like probably talking, and it was closer to him, so it was probably louder, being like, hey, what are you doing? And trying, this thing didn't want to answer any questions. It was like, I feel like shit. I just want to sit here and do nothing. And then angry Anger too took over and bam, kicked him, broke his hip.
I've never heard of
And?
somebody getting actively kicked by an alien.
I haven't either. This is a interesting piece of story. What's really sad is this is the last piece of the story. There's no more.
Damn.
Nobody
They
notes how
don't even
much,
talk
when
about like the GoFundMe for the person's medical bills or GoFarmMe or whatever they had at the time, and like it was damn.
Yeah.
Damn, so he just got assaulted by an alien, and they were like, "Yeah, that's the IFA headlines there." You know,
That's classic. Yeah, they're like, "This is classic."
He just got
classic.
He just got.
It was Bill.
So
it was Bill, and they were just like, "This is classic Bill." Of course, he got kicked
yeah.
in the ass by the
If
alien.
anybody would get kicked in the ass by an alien,
It was Bill. Yep.
They didn't even talk about how he developed like butt cancer, not colon cancer, but actual physical, like his butt cheek
His
cancer.
butt cheek got cancer.
Butt cheek cancer. Damn.
I didn't talk about it. It was really sad.
Michigan.
You know, Bill.
Michigan.
What are you gonna do?
This is just some Lansing shit, honestly. I grew up right near Lansing. This sounds like some shit from Lansing.
Yeah, and what sucks is we never heard anything. Didn't say how he left. Didn't say when the giant humanoid left, or if any other reactions or interaction with the people. What I think is after the guy got kicked, they were all just like, "Nah, nothing else to see here. He's just gonna lay here and do nothing. He's not gonna do any tricks, or we don't know what's gonna happen." So they just left. They got bored. I imagine people like look. People think that our what is it called? Like we're losing our interaction. Like we're not we what is the word? Like our span of consciousness, span of attention.
Our attention span?
Why
Yeah.
it took me that long to rotate that in my head. Attention span has gotten like shorter, and I'm here to probably say I really don't think it has.
No,
I think it just takes longer it took longer for news to process, so they had to do it. Now we're just like, we can do it quick. I don't think it ever mattered. I think people just grew into stuff getting faster.
I think our attention span has stayed the same, but and we're waxing philosophical here. I think our ability to become stimulated has changed.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Our ability, actually, take that back one step further. Our ability to process stimulation has become quicker, which makes it appear that our attention span has changed. But attention span and being stimulated, right, by whatever you're viewing or whatever, those are two different things, closely related. They're sitting at the same dining room table, but they are not the same thing. And I think that at a point you've processed kind of what you're stimulated by, and then especially if you're farmers and shit, it's like, dude, you've got a lot of farmers are really fucking busy. Really,
they're probably like, well, gotta go milk the cows before sun goes down. He's not doing anything. So
so much fucking respect for the life of farmers and shit like that. Like, we might not generally get along politically, but trust me, like I'm with you in terms of like respect around just all the shit that you all do out there. Anybody working out on the farms. It doesn't matter if you're like harvesting out in the field or if you're running the fucking bitch. Like it's a motherfucker. It don't matter if you're watching like an elephant screw a duck. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, wow, that's some shit I never thought I'd see. You only got a few minutes in your day. You got to get back. You got shit to do. There's a schedule, man.
Exactly.
So at a certain point, it's like everybody through town has cycled through, and it's like, well, we'll chat about this for 20 minutes after sermon on Sunday, and that's the next time we'll get to talk about this.
And then you move on. You get back to work.
Move on.
Yep, duck offense. You're just like, I'll name it real quick, and then I gotta go.
Yeah.
Yep.
Damn.
Food's almost done. Yeah, that's crazy. Well,
yeah.
As that was the end of that story, we're gonna switch up to another quick story. This might be a little longer. But many of the stories in the book go through what they call airship sightings, and I didn't. I akin this to like me calling stuff handbooks, right? So this is kind of the thing. They're just like, it's an airship, because most of the time they were thinking, oh, there's water ships, right? So it's like just a ship on the sea is something. So they have to convey that it's an airship and not a sea ship, which they wouldn't say sea ship, they'd just call it a ship.
Yeah.
But one thing I want to know, right? In the Old West, they're called airships. I want to start calling cars land ships, because literally they're just a ship on the land, right?
Pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so backtrack a little bit on the epistemology behind it. All right, is that the right word? Epistemology? I think that's the right word. Too many ologies out there, if you ask me. But yeah, so airships. Essentially, what we have here is we have oh my God, why am I blanking out every single time? We have the Mount Rainier sighting, which essentially, and this was in early '47, which coined the phrase "flying saucers." Specifically, when he said to the reporters, it was, oh my God, it starts with a K. I can't fucking remember. I have too many UFO events. Are you looking it up, Joey?
No.
Oh, we have.
Oh, yeah, Google it, so good luck.
Well, okay, so it's when the term flying saucer was coined. It was technically coined by accident. News reporter asked, oh my God, I can't. Too many UFO events. Anyways, are you looking it up now?
I am, yeah.
Okay, Mount Rainier UFO 1947. I think it was like January or February. It was a few months before Roswell. Oh my God, it's totally with a goddamn K, and I can't remember.
The name of the pilot?
Yeah.
Kenneth Arnold.
Kenneth Arnold. Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, backtrack.
Google.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, so what we had, right, when you had like basically from the settling of the European settling of America, right, up until July, or actually Kenneth Arnold, right? So it'd be January, February 1947. I think it was beginning of 1947. You had Kenneth Arnold, who was flying, all the shit like that, saw what's now called UFOs, and there was a whole string of them, and they were basically moving really fucking weird, and he looked out his window, and when he described them to the reporter after he landed, he said they were skipping along like saucers, like flying saucers, right? He wasn't describing the actual shape or anything. He was just talking about how they moved across the sky and how weird they were. Imagine taking a dinner plate, and skipping it across a river, like how it'd be bouncing up and down, right? And a whole line of those, but they're in the sky. That's all he was trying to say. Reporter took that, called it flying saucers. That became the term for it for most of the modern, century, like afterwards, right? Up until UAPs kind of picked up after 2017. Well, before that incident where reporters like, I like that term, and they like put it in papers and it became a whole fucking thing. Before that, they were called airships, right? Specifically during World War II and shit, they were Foo Fighters, but that was kind of and that was literally based off of they looked like fighter planes, and they said in a meeting like, what the fuck was that? And they called them fuck fighters, right? Like that was what they called them, but in official documents they called them Foo Fighters, because that's a little more you can present a term like that, right? Officially you can call them Foo Fighters, as opposed to fucking fighter jets, right? But yeah, so airships was the nomenclature at the time, which is why they're so weird. But it also described anything that was up in the air. So that was my long historical UFO rant. But that is the terminology at the time that everybody used.
I wonder if Kenneth actually knew how many people would take his flying saucers to heart, and how if he took responsibility for how many people's plates he broke as they were trying to throw and skip their plates across the river to see how many times they could skip it. Did he ever take responsibility for that? Probably not.
This is another reason why I'm glad I live in the 21st century, and accountability is a stronger term these days, honestly.
Exactly.
Honestly.
Well, in Lake Charles, Louisiana, in April 19th, 1897, a man who was not named but called a person of unquestioned veracity. I said 1897.
Oh my God, I'm sorry. I was like, this isn't Wild West at all.
It's yesterday.
God damn. Okay, sorry.
Well,
shut up.
Well, in Lake Charles, Louisiana, in April 19th. I'll just reread it. Well,
aha! That was my fault.
Yeah, It's April 19th, 1897. That's probably why it sounded that way. Well, In Lake Charles, Louisiana, on April 19th, 1897, a man who was not named but called a person of unquestioned veracity gave his story to a local newspaper. The UV person, unquestioned veracity, first spotted the ship flying in the sky about a half-mile away and heading in his direction. As the craft got closer to him and started hovering down on him, his horses got spooked and threw him off and ran away. So he's just sitting there by himself, horses gone. As he was getting up, the airship descended right near him and then landed about 100-ish feet away from where he was.
Damn.
The ship was 75 feet long and about 25 feet wide and had an aluminum like outside, or if you're in England, aluminium outside. Well, after the ship landed, two beings climbed down a ladder from the ship. They apologized continuously to him for scaring his horses, which threw him on the ground, and asked him if he would like to go into the ship and see it. Unlike our first story, where they're like, "Get the fuck out of here! You can't get on here." They're like, "No, come on."
These are Canadian aliens. I'm
These
so
were the
sorry.
real ones.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
they just thought that all humans looked the same, so they assumed it's the same guy that they pestered a few years earlier that was drunk there. I'm so sorry. If you really, we can make it up to you this time. You know, last time I know you asked if you could get on the ship, and he's like, I don't know what you're talking, because he has the veracity. I don't know what you're talking about. And they're like, I know. You want to forget about it. That's okay. We'll give you a few loons for your troubles here. We'll give you a few loons.
Loonies and
you go on, you get on the ship. We'll go find eggs somewhere else. I know how much you like them.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, actually.
What?
They thought it was the same person. No, well, honestly, this time, well, you know, most people would say yes to this, and he did, because he was like,
100%.
Hell yeah. Well,
yeah.
The beings introduced the entire crew of other beings that were on this ship, right? It was very weird the way that this kind of went through. It kind of reminds me of like Betty Andreessen, where they're just like, here's everybody that we have on the ship. Yeah. You know, there's Danny, there's Deborbalorg,
Danny 2, Danny 3. We have a lot of clones here.
Yeah, it's pretty much all clones. Well, yeah. The first person they introduced was Mr. Wilson, which is kind of funny. Who was he was just behind
a control panel. Yeah. No. Mr. Wilson was just behind a control panel. You could only see from the top of his nose up, and he's like, "Hey, how you doing today? If you ever need life advice, I got you."
Yeah. Yeah. The next door neighbor, you never saw him. Well, that was the owner of the craft. Mr. Scott Warren, who was a friend of Wilson's, Mr. Wilson. Mm-hmm. So it's funny that they had all these names.
They've got names,
human
too.
Names. Mr. Waters, who was the engineer.
Okay.
And a cook from Mexico, which did not have
Are
a
you
name.
Kidding me?
And I find that very racist. That they're like, it's just the cook from Mexico. Yeah.
What?
In
my
the craft.
God. I never thought I would say this, but maybe that really fucked up terminology about, you know, folks that are coming here from Mexico being aliens. Maybe it's true. Maybe they are. I'm just kidding. Totally fucking scratch that. But the point is, this is just more proof that, you know, like if you go to a great Indian restaurant, 8 times out of 10, shit ton of Mexican folks making the food back. Go to a great Chinese restaurant, 8 times out of 10, shit ton of Mexican folks. You go to Italy, look in the back of the kitchen, shit ton of Mexican folks. Mexican folks can literally make. But you know what happened? The aliens went to Egypt. We're like, hey, this is how you make a pyramid. All right, we got to hit up some other continents over there, yeah? And then they went over to South America, Central America, right? And they were like, all right, we're going to teach you how to. Oh, my God, you already did it. Wow, that was actually a good idea. I didn't think about putting the steps on the side. Damn, you guys are. Holy shit, y'all are good at this. No. Please, we honestly, is it cool if we just hang out and chill and watch? This is fucking dope. This is just proof. That's all I'm saying.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, the owner, Mr. Wilson, told him the airship. Well,
Sorry. It's just
No, it's
what
all
the
good.
fuck, Mr. Wilson.
Exactly. I just
Yeah.
picture a big beach volleyball with just a red hand paint on him and just driving the ship. Well, the owner, Mr. Wilson, told him the airship was kept afloat not by electricity, but by
Oh.
compression and expansion of gas. Mr.
Okay.
Wilson said that they could travel about up to 125 miles per hour.
Okay.
Mr. Wilson then said that they had been conducting experiments of the right out. Mr. Wilson then said they had been conducting experiments on the right altitude to fly. So basically, they're trying to find out how far up or down in the air their airship
Yeah.
should go. And
Yeah.
the purpose of the experiment was to create an airship that would fly between New York and San Francisco.
This actually sounds like actual humans trying to figure out how to fly some shit.
Exactly. And so, as I
Okay.
was saying, as I know what you're thinking, this doesn't sound
What am I
like a
thinking?
Zeppelin from Germany.
Nope.
And it most likely was, actually.
This
That's
is our
what I think.
Fiora, Mr. Wilson.
Well, as we know,
Hail
things that
helium. Sorry.
that's okay. As we know, things that technically aren't really mainstream, like drones, were created long before we start to see them in the air or on the shelves. Well, the first Zeppelin, which I said in quotes, was created by a German man named Ferdinand Graf von Zeppelin, a retired
Sounds about
German army officer. It was it made its first initial flight on July 2nd, 1900. So this is about 13 years too early. So I would still say, though, it is very possible the United States was already trying to build something of this caliber as well. Not to mention that the actual first steam-powered hydrogen balloon airship was steering. Not to mention that the actual first steam-powered hydrogen balloon airship with steering was flown in 1852, about 20-ish years before this actual thing. So I think there could have been numerous types of airships flying around at that time testing. So I like to look into this. Is this airship probably more was like somebody trying to figure out new ways before time, before they
A
were
beta
there,
balloon.
you know?
A beta
A
balloon.
beta balloon. Yeah.
And honestly,
And-
oh, go ahead, please.
And here we like to try to figure out if there's a hint of proof in some of these things. So we're just trying to give you all the facts, even in some of these little short stories that we found. So.
Well, yeah. And I mean, so that's the thing too, is how many UFO sightings and yada yadas are at the origin behind them. If we could find the truth of the truth of the truth of the truth, humans. We had the CIA, the Blackbird
Mm-hmm.
testing throughout I believe it was the late 70s, early 80s. Super fucking confidential, super fucking toppity top secret. And when UFO sightings, because the CIA, the government just as a whole, kept very close tabs on UFO watch groups, right? Because it wasn't just to see if their secret experiments were being registered by people that were in the UFO community. It was also to see if, say, for instance, the Reds, right, the Soviets were testing shit in the area. Right.
Yep.
And because they could look at the descriptions and know about their top secret understanding of Soviet technology and be like, oh, shit. So we didn't know what happened between this point and that point when we saw it. But there was something described 5 minutes later that was showing up over here. Boom. That's our leading theory on what was happening. So those things were watched. Now, I want to point something out that was completely it's often overlooked. It's a very strange little point of Civil War history. Right. Scouts during the major planned battles, right, that would take place in the days before and shit like that, kind of in the days before, hours before, leading up to a major event, they had balloon scouts. Both sides had balloon scouts that would be tied to the ground, right, and they had a small, basically a hot air balloon, and it would be lifted up, right? And they would have a whole fucking, it's almost like ships, at sea for a long time, had these very complicated flag signals, which could communicate to one another, right? When visual communication was the only option because they couldn't hear you. They had scouts that were in early hot air balloons watching battles, seeing troop movements, and communicating down to the ground. So like this technology was like already about to fucking happen. I am 100% sure that for the folks, the probably 8-year-old that was thrown up in that bitch that was getting shot at all day, let's be honest, they're like, you're small, you're light, you'll be perfect, and like threw him up there. I don't wanna. Perfect. You got that spunk, kid. But so
That's what we need to win the war.
He just keeps saying he wants to leave. I think he's saying they went left. Wait, which
Go
left?
higher.
Oh shit.
Go higher.
Go higher, you say? Perfect. But I'm sure while they were up there, some folks attached onto it, and they were like, "Fuck, if we could direct these things and not just be at the whim of the wind, that would be perfect." And thing is, especially at this fucking time in history for inventors and shit, the margin for error if their planned ships mess up is straight up catastrophic death. Like that's it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So
There's
it's
no
whoever the
saving.
fuck
There's no
succeeded. Yeah, no, basically whoever the fuck succeeded is the one that showed up in the newspaper as like inventor of, because everybody else that was testing in silence and kind of secretly on the side and doing their own shit, they just fucking died, dude.
Yeah, literally.
Mr. Wilson's dead. Like,
Yeah, probably.
that was my
and that's why no stories came up because of Mr. Wilson.
Mm-hmm.
Hard to corroborate the evidence there.
This
that
is
was actually
same with
a
the
thing.
bucket situation.
Yeah.
I'm saying. And I think I don't want to give. I'm glad that First in Flight, totally American, right? Because oh my God, can you think about how the world would have went if it was Canadian?
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad I'm in this timeline. Anyways,
Yeah, me too. We did a good job being born in this timeline. Well, that was the end of that story. There's no other
okay.
no other things happen about it.
Just
A
had
lot of
had
these
a nice
are-
little walkabout.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of these are from newspaper articles, things like that. So it's
Mhm.
kind of hard to, to gather much more evidence because this was the evidence of this.
Yeah.
Newspaper articles that they're finding, sometimes witness statements from people on the other side of it is very similar to what happened. So it's kind of like we're not getting the firsthand video like nowadays. Oh, I just looked on TikTok and I saw a UFO, like it's
Yeah,
not like
yeah.
that. It's just from all this is from secondhand opinion or from firsthand, but from a newspaper, so third party viewership on it. Well,
Gotcha.
in our next story, we'll get into another airship. And this one sounds like it has a lot more of a UFO high strangeness case than just like I saw an airship and they took me up into it. And
Gotcha.
you'll see. Yeah. Well, this is also in April of 1897 in Harrisburg, Arkansas. The state senator Benjamin Harris Jr., which Harrisburg, Benjamin Harris Jr., I think the town was probably named after his family.
Yeah,
Well,
just a little bit.
he was awakened from sleep by strange sounds. He went outside and noticed a massive airship landing on his property. When it landed, 4 people stepped out. 2 young men, a woman, and an elderly man who said he invented the airship. And see, this is like, okay, it's starting like the last one, they're talking to
Yeah,
him. There's
yeah,
actually
yeah.
people on this. But if we think about it, and this is kind of how I like to think of a lot of stuff. I always think of it as that maybe these people, UFOs that we see could be us from the future. I like to say
Totally.
that kind of stuff. That's kind of my theory behind a lot of it, but we'll look into this one. The older man had a heavy set of dark silken whiskers which hung down near his waist, with jet black eyes and a deep, firm expression. They started grabbing well water from a nearby well, and Harris walked up to the elderly man, and the elderly man regaled him with the story of the airship and what it was. So basically, the guy walks up and he's like, "Oh, you look like you need answers," and just starts telling him everything about the airship because he's an elderly man and he just wants to tell everything about it, because it's kind
Apparently, that's a universal impulse for like men that get to be past 50 years old who just love telling you every detail about their fucking car or their vehicle. It just
They
doesn't
have to
matter.
let you
It
know.
just doesn't matter where
Yeah.
they're from.
Exactly. Well, apparently, The elderly man's uncle created an anti-gravity propulsion system and was offered
All right.
big sums of money by many countries.
The senator guy there is just like, what's gravity?
Propulsion? Gravity? I have no idea what this is. Yeah. I don't like
Sounds
that
like
word.
another platform I need for the next season of elections.
We're going to fight
We
gravity,
are anti-gravity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so he took it in and was like, what?
I was just going to tell you that well water's for our cows. It's full of sulfur. You should actually be using that well, but if I'm down to listen if you want to keep talking.
Yeah, you might be dead in a few minutes. That's fine. But oh well, just keep talking. Well, the elderly man was like, look, all these people are trying to buy my uncle's anti-gravity propulsion system.
Obviously.
Including countries that included Paris, London, and many other places.
Abbott
so
wants
those would be the cities, that they're in, the countries are in. Which bad writing by the author of the article, I think, is what they.
Yeah, every country wants this. Detroit,
Paris,
Toledo,
London.
Cincinnati, all the major world governments.
Yeah. Well, sadly, while he was thinking
no.
it over, the uncle became violently ill and died suddenly. So he never got
What
to
the
sell.
fuck?
Yeah, the elderly man, his uncle died while he was trying to be like, hey, I want to sell. Maybe I sell this, maybe not. And so
What?
the elderly man started experimenting on his own with the airship design and said that he would travel at night not to be detected by anybody that's trying to buy this thing from him and buy it. He also didn't, in the book, the elderly man said that the original, he had to search a long time to find the actual original airship because he couldn't figure out how to make it, and he knew his uncle had the design, but he couldn't figure out how to make it. So he had to actually track down the original airship to design something like that. And he designed it, but he didn't know exactly how to do it. So he's just testing all this stuff, doing it at night.
Maybe we fill it with lead.
That'll do it. Helium? Yeah. But yeah, so it basically
says here only during thunderstorms.
Only going during thunderstorms.
Perfect.
Perfect. Do it. Well, he didn't survive. No, I'm kidding. He just testing it at night because he didn't want anybody to see. It's kind of like what they do at night, what they were doing at night during the World War II to test all their new stuff. They're trying to hide all this stuff so nobody finds it, kills them, or takes it, or whatever it was. Whatever he was afraid of. Well, the anti-gravitational device is just a single small wire placed around anything, and it works. That's literally how he described it. It's just a single small wire that if you placed it around I would say if you want to think about it, think of it like a noose. You place, and anything in that noose inside the noose is going to float. It's not going to be able to touch the sides of the noose because it's gravitational, right? So it's just keeping it inside there. It's floating inside the noose, and then outside the noose, it's also floating. So it's nothing's touching whatever is floating, and that becomes the anti-gravitational device, which is very freaking interesting.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's almost like the is it 1940s, 50s, 60s, the depictions of everybody in the future. They all had hovering rings on them for everything.
Yep.
It's almost like a spin-off of that. It's like a leash, but the leash actually keeps you away from gravity. This is interesting.
Isn't that crazy?
So it's a fun wormhole to go down.
The way I would think of it is a guy joking in those days, and he's just watch this heavy anti-gravity machine, and he literally just puts a rope around something and ties it to a tree and anti-gravity. It's stopping gravity, and it's just literally a rope holding up the thing.
Yeah.
Wow.
See, the apple never hit the ground. Newton was wrong. Whoa.
Oh my God. Yeah. That's how I pictured my mind just playing with them. Fantastic. But the guy in the story said that it was literally holding it, that it wasn't touching the rope or the little loop or wire thing that it had around it. So I imagine it was probably using electronic waves or electric waves or something like that to keep it. Not really sure though. I'm not a scientist.
It's a playground for thought, for sure. Like,
It
it's
is.
definitely a playground for thought.
Well, on the front of the airship, they had placed a 4 tons improved gun.
They had a 4-ton gun,
They had a 4-ton gun on the front of the airship.
a 42G. God damn.
Yeah. Fucking
A 4TG.
Damn. The
That
elderly
is-
man called it.
But it
a
only
4-ton
shot
gun.
it only shot 22 rounds. Yep, we could keep this bitch firing for days. Get over here, rabbit.
Tiny ones, yeah. Well, funny enough, he said it could shoot 63,000 bullets a minute.
How the fuck are you gonna load something that fast? Again, oh well. See, this actually tracks. It had to have been 22s.
Exactly.
Yeah, that
To
tracks.
be that
That
fast.
tracks.
Well, I
That
just
tracks.
want to like give a little like process behind it and to make it more unbelievable, right? So in the late
Okay.
1800s, the fastest they could fire was 450 rounds per minute, right? 450
Pretty fast.
rounds.
It's
per
pretty
minute.
good. Yeah.
Not 63,000 bullets per minute. See, like,
Yeah.
take that.
And those guns were literally water cooled, like quite literally water cooled, and they had more jam, honestly, than your grandma.
Exactly. Yeah, they didn't work super well. Wow. Cricket
Yeah.
applause.
Yeah, more
And
jams than your grandma.
To give you more behind it,
Okay.
in the 1960s, with the M134 minigun, they could only fire 6,000 bullets per minute. So
Yeah.
getting there, but still way too low. Well, at this point, they offered to take Harris for a ride. And
these
unlike
amicable aliens.
everybody else,
Oh no.
he said no.
Fucking lame,
declined.
dude. Lame. That is fucking lame, dude. Come on.
Fucking lame.
Fuck
So,
off, dude.
they
Like,
just
you're
got
a bitch.
back
I'm
on
sorry.
board
Harris
and
was a
flew
bitch.
away.
Harris
Yeah,
was a
right?
bitch.
He was a state senator. He was a bitch. So
He's a total little bitch.
yeah.
I don't like
Well, they
him.
just got
I don't
back
like
on
him.
board and flew back
glad
away.
he's
They were
dead.
just like, good luck. They're just like, well, fucking fine. We offered to take you on this
Fine.
cool ass ride and maybe shoot some people.
Dude.
You know? Yeah.
Hell no. I don't even care if I got pants on. I'm getting on that shit. We're going.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's funny.
Probe me for the
is-
ticket. I'm there.
Well, it's funny. Adding to this, before they left, the elderly man said that they were getting ready to head down to Cuba to kill off the Spanish army if hostilities had not ceased.
I like these dudes.
Yeah,
I
they were
like these
heading
dudes
down-
a lot.
Yep.
Yeah.
But they said now the plans are changed and we're going to the aid of the Armenians,
Okay.
which if we want to get into a little history behind this,
Please do. Go for it.
at this time in 1897, the Spanish army was fighting against revolutionaries in Cuba seeking independence. And so they were going down to kill the fucking Spanish army with their freaking 63,000 bullets per minute, to go.
Are you trying to tell me that there is an even earlier history of advanced U.S. military technology interfering with Latin American relations?
Yep.
It goes back even farther.
Yes.
Dear God. They're like, we're going to have to kill Castro's great-great-great-great-grandmother.
Exactly. Well, what's funny is a year later in 1898, the U.S. actually declared war against Spain and then kicked them out of Cuba.
Hell
which
yeah.
is just like they were just getting ready to do that. They're like, we're going to do it a year early. So if we want to think about this, they maybe might be time travelers. Because in 1897, the Ottoman Empire was massacring the Armenian people, which is what they just talked about. They are the Ottoman Empire killed between 100,000 to 300,000 in between 1894 and 1897 Armenian people who were just fighting to get their freedom.
Yeah.
So I think that maybe They knew what was going to happen. But because freaking Harris didn't get on board with them, they were just like, well, fuck these people, and just went back to their time.
Well,
Because they didn't stop the Armenian massacre. They were just still killed.
Yeah. Well, so a lot of early inventors around shit that so war has always been profitable. Like war has always been insanely profitable. Frankly, it's always been the number one way to move whatever the fuck currency or profits are between one place and another. That's how it's always been. A lot of early inventors, if they saw some sort of military application, were not, blind to the fact that if they could get a military to be excited about it, right, then they would make, buku money on shit. And a lot of the early ways of testing anything that could be used for weaponry or to give a military an advantage was to find whatever the fuck war was going on and to take on whatever side probably would have the most money or be able to benefit them the most or make the biggest splash in the news, right? That's another way, is to pick the underdog, have the underdog whoop their ass with your fantastic weapon, right?
Yep.
And then every government on the planet wants to buy your shit. So this could be an early inventor of something that really was super fucking awesome, probably bragged up, but super fucking awesome. And to go pick the underdog and have every world government be like, holy fuck, what did these people who were fighting the Spanish Empire, right, had no chance in hell. What did these people use to win? And it's like, step right up, and fly on out. We've just created, and it's like, and it's this thing, So, like, I don't know. I'm trying to think. I want to say the guy who invented the, what do you call it? It's like the rotary machine gun, right? Because back in the day when you actually had the old school machine guns, I can't remember the term. Gun nerds, hit me up about this. I know there's a specific term. I think it was the minigun, but yeah, you had to hand crank that bitch, right?
Yep.
And it kind of had to be timed with how fast the barrels would cool, and literally the barrel would spin because you couldn't just keep shooting out of the same barrel. Metallurgy wasn't advanced enough, but yeah, I mean, he took that shit, went to whatever the fuck military would take him, and was like, "Come on, try it out in battle." And they're like, "Dad, we're kind of busy right now." And he's like, "No, go ahead." And then somebody finally tried it, and they're like, "Oh my god, we need 12." So like this,
we need 7,000.
It was around that same time. That same time.
Well, all these advancements were happening in military and guns, so it was like, yeah, at that time especially, because people were just like, how can we kill each other faster? Right before World War I started, they were kind of like, let's make everything easier to kill people with.
This is also when we lost the inventor of the ketchup gas in a horrible mustard gas accident. Continue.
He almost won the Nobel Prize. Almost. Ketchup gas probably could have saved the world, though. Well, the last story we're going to talk about today is one of the most interesting. Early on in the podcast that we do, around episode 9 or 10, we did an episode about the women in black. If Gil remembers this.
Yes.
So, as you probably also know, there is Men in Black, probably from the amazing movie series with Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones in it, or you just actually study the phenomena. The funny thing is, and I think maybe we talked about it in that episode, but the Men in Black is, people have talked about, is a spoof to, how could I say this, to discredit the actual idea of the Men in Black, because I think sometimes the Men in Black are created as like almost like a demonic-ish kind of figure in some stories, that they're very unearthly, I think is the idea. Not that they're humans, that they're just like unearthly and they don't know how to react and act in a human's body. And it's not necessarily demonic, but if you want to think of it, that they just don't know how to act in a body, in a human way, is how I see it.
Yeah, there's so that's like one of the long-standing historical kind of like signs, right? If you're going to go back to the Spark Notes, to the Is your toe broken? Does it hurt when you move it to the right? Yep, it's broken. Like the
Yep.
simplest of the simplest kind of descriptions. The Men in Black are almost never right considered to actually be humans. Right.
Yep.
A lot of times, like if you go back to like Albert Bender and like why, and he was one of the first people who really pushed UFOs and saucers and started the early newsletter groups and everything like that. And the reason why he dipped out of doing that is because he was visited by quote unquote the Men in Black, and he wrote about it and basically warned everybody, hey, I just had some people appear. Well, when those people appeared in his little loft in the house that I think he shared with like his stepdad or his dad or something like that.
It was a stepdad, yeah. Really weird.
Yeah. But there was a distinct smell of sulfur. Right. So since the very beginning of like modern ufological kind of like ties to the Men in Black, that demon kind of like or evil or satanistic, like in that satanistic in the fundamentalist Christian sense of like the evil spooky dark side, right? Not Satanists, y'all are cool, but but in the pop culture reference, right? It's always been tied to a demonic force. And so there's the smell of sulfur, there's the really weird behavior, there's this like terminology around it. And it looks like a lot of times when you see them, again, they don't know how to interact with reality. Like they're just like it's like you took a newborn baby, put it inside of an adult's skin. That's a weird visual. And then and gave it just enough like kind of
Awareness.
Thought processes, right? Just enough processors in there that it can actually communicate and carry out some sort of like mission. It's always just like, and on Tuesday, you should stop right now. Can I see your pen? And it's like very like weird. A lot of times they don't have lips, and there's almost
weird.
But on the demonic side, there's almost always a distinct smell of sulfur that goes with it, which is tied to all the evil shit in history. But
It is.
yeah.
Well, this story might actually have the Men in Black in it, which is kind of interesting to add to this one.
Give it to me.
In Dubuque, Iowa, which just had an airship recently fly over in October of 1879, made all the papers, it had a visit from maybe fairies, maybe Men in Black. We don't need just a bunch of different things. Well,
maybe gay Men in Black.
Yeah, exactly. Well, a year after the airship flew by in 1880, a girl who basically got sick and no doctor could figure out what was wrong with her. Honestly, she probably just had the common cold. They're just like, I don't know what's wrong with her.
It appears as though she's down with the sickness.
Disturbed came early. Well, because doctors couldn't figure out what was wrong with her, they did what any family would do back in the day. They called
We
a
gave her
priest.
everything. We gave her a lobotomy. We gave her more work to do. We told her to shut the fuck up. Nothing works.
No. And then they decided, we should probably call a priest. They wanted to see if the priest could do something. Well,
and after an hour and a half long visit, he finally left their small boys' room and attended to her.
Well, to be fair, Father Bernard of New Mallory Monastery was also known as a great healer of unhealable persons. He got called in.
Okay.
Father Bernard prayed over top of the little girl for a while. Actually prayed, not did the other kind of praying that the priests are known for.
Not like when he prayed over the boy.
No. And as soon after he finished praying, he said, "Bingo, I've got it. On your way home from this, give her this certain medicine, and she will be cured." So some kind of clover, something. Yeah, some kind of like herb or something that he had figured out. And I want to say that probably some of the priests back in the day, some of them knew a shit ton about small herbs. Probably have done a lot of work on them, and same as scientists, because some of them have figured out like using their priest knowledge of like, I can cure her, and they're like, oh, he's a godly man to figure this out, and it's like, no, he just kind of probably did a bunch of
No, he
Science.
interrogated 4,000 witches and burned them at the stake.
Yeah, and then
And
used
what do you
they
need
told
this
him.
for? And it's like, well, it helps with this. Not anymore, bitch. We're gonna tell people we invented this. You know,
Exactly.
like 90% of these single women living out in the woods with all their fucking awesome ass black cats were just actually healers in the community, and the church got a little bit threatened by them because people stopped going to them for prayer and started going to them for actual fucking cures to shit. But
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah. And
so the church
had
a lot of info.
they appropriated a lot of info, literally.
Yeah, they inappropriately appropriated a lot of info.
Well, so after the priest told him this, the father, who was named Andy Crow, and his daughter went and they got it, right?
Hell
The
yeah.
daughter's name is not mentioned in the story, so we're just going to call her daughter, just like
Okay.
Eddie Vedder said.
Mm-hmm.
Well, on their way home, the daughter looked at the father and said, "All that was done for me by Father Bernard won't help me. I'm
Oh.
going away in a year's time to live with fairies," which is like, I
Okay.
mean, it's a kid, so with fairies, they're kind of like, he's probably just, thinking about all the
Okay.
stories about it in the woods, and
Yeah.
sounds like a kid's way of saying she's probably gonna die. That's kind of how I see it, of like a nice way to, a nice
Yeah.
never-ending story kind of metaphor
kinda-
that she's like, I think I'm gonna die.
Kind of somebody where she was there with a family or friend or whatever, and she was like, I'm worried I'm gonna die. I'd be like, well, if you die, it's okay because then you get to live in a land full of fairies and everything gets to be
Exactly, yeah.
fun and played. And she's kind of regurgitating that as like a way of saying that, like, I know I'm gonna die, but it's okay, Dad.
Yeah, trying to
That
help
makes
the
sense.
father, and well,
Yeah.
the father waited and waited, and on the exact day, a year from when the daughter made the proclamation, she disappeared without a trace.
Mm.
There was a candle left burning in the room, and all her
Oh.
clothes were left behind except for one calico dress.
Mm.
Now, I
That's
know what
creepy.
you might be thinking, right? Andy the
know
dad
what I'm
probably just killed her. Is that what
Why
you
would
were
he wait
thinking?
a year? Not literally. That was the farthest thing from what I was thinking. I was like, why would he wait a year? He could have just changed the date. She only said it to him. This doesn't make any sense.
Well, to me, I could see it as like he's just telling the story afterwards because it has all the kind of makings of the story. And
Totally.
that's what all the neighbors were thinking as well. So they're just like, I'm pretty
okay.
sure this guy killed him. They were very
Okay.
suspicious, and they started
Yeah.
inquiring with the local law enforcement to look into it and see if there was any foul play involved. But in all the surrounding areas, there was no body found. So they were like, okay, we're digging here, we're digging there, we're going to use the dogs to figure out if there's a body around. No body.
Yeah.
Nothing happened. So some time passed, right? A year later, she showed back up at home. Just randomly showed
Whoa.
right back at home. She was unharmed, and there was
Whoa.
nothing wrong with her.
Whoa. This
When
is some
her
like
father-
David Pallades missing 411 shit here.
Exactly, yeah. When her
Okay.
father asked, "Where have you been?" she
Yeah.
started on this fantastical story about fairies that had come to her and
Whoa.
taken her away, but not by force in any way. She just
Yeah.
went with them. She mentioned
Yeah.
that these fairies had futuristic technology. They traveled around in cars invisible to mortal eyes.
Oh shit.
The only reason that she was actually returned was because the fairies had heard the rumblings in the town, blaming the father for her disappearance, and didn't want to get her father Andy in trouble. Basically to clear the air and say, this was not him. This is our fault, the fairies. You know us, the fairies. Come on, eh? You know,
Everybody
like,
knows this. Yeah.
yeah, right? Like that's the whole thing behind it.
Yeah.
So weird that she just randomly returns one day. And such a
This
weird
is-
story.
This is some Travis Walton Fire in the Sky kind of shit, because it's like all the fucking loggers that were leaving, they saw the UFO. Travis just got the fuck out and was like, you get over here, UFO, and like ran up to him, got hit with the beam. They were all like, oh fuck, there was somebody behind us when we were backing up, and like basically took his ass in. Whole fucking process. God damn. We are going to cover that someday. And this is a tip off. We're gonna cover Travis Walton, but I'm going to be restoring a lot of his earliest audio tapes. I've been collecting them slowly for the past year and a half. But anyways, Travis Walton getting abducted by the, everybody came back into town, told the sheriffs, holy fucking shitballs, this dude just got fucking abducted. And they were like, yeah, sure, buddy. I don't know why they were in Arizona and sounded Canadian, but that might be a clue.
Everybody.
And they were like, yeah, sure, buddy. Okay. We're just going to have to give you some question in here. And then it was like the week or whatever of like all of the friends were being accused of killing Travis Walton and like hiding his body until Travis showing up fucking naked as goddamn hell, like in a phone booth, was like, please can somebody come get me right now? Like a week and a half later, and was like, no, I really was fucking abducted. Right. But there was like a criminal investigation that was like underway by the time that he popped back up. This is kind of like a version of that, dude.
Yeah, just an earlier version, way earlier. Well,
damn.
As she came back, everyone in the town was elated and that she had seemingly returned out of thin air to her family and friends.
Shit, dude. Yeah.
I mean, who wouldn't be? Like, this girl who's been missing, their friends are just like, where the fuck did she go? Nobody's
Robert
really
Downey Jr. came back. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like nobody knows what happened to her. Nobody knows. It's just like, okay, cool, great. She's back.
Yeah.
She's like amazingly back. Well, they held this huge feast. And she told all of them what had happened without any hesitation. She's just like, really, yeah. And they're like, well, we're kind of just glad to have you back. And, we all thought your dad murdered you. So glad that wasn't true. Yeah.
There's just somebody in the back slowly taking a rope down from a tree. And they're like, someday I'll get to try my anti-gravity technology.
Yeah, literally. That was probably earlier on in the timeline. The anti-gravitational timeline. Well, 2 days later, she went to downtown Dubuque to visit her sister. While she was there, so it was 3 days after she announced the ferries were returning to pick her up again. So she's in Dubuque and she's telling her sister, like, in 3 days, the ferries are going to come pick me up.
Yeah.
She said specifically 2 ferries had come for her.
Whoa.
2. Okay. Well, the young daughter's sister, who she was visiting, went upstairs to check on the daughter one night and found these 2 odd-looking beings resembling men.
Hell no.
Dressed in antiquated black suits.
What?
And with her, they just walked out of the front door.
Whoa.
All 3 of them just walked down the street and then seemingly at the end of the street evaporated into thin air.
Whoa.
And nobody saw them ever again.
Dude. Oh, that is trippy. Holy shit. Damn.
And that is the last story for today and our episode for today. We're going to be getting into some more UFO cases eventually. Now, Gil's going to be getting into some more UFO cases eventually. But for today, that's it.
Yes. Thank you all. Thank you all for joining us.
I just wanted to give you guys the chills at the end of it.
Dude, you did it. You're bringing us into spooky season. You know what I'm saying? The second we hit September, it is spooky season, right?
Yeah.
It is spooky season. And like honestly, spooky season lasts throughout all the way up until January, because it's always spooky after buying everybody gifts and all the holiday travel and shit, seeing your bills that you have to pay in January. That's spooky. It just keeps fucking going, right? Dude, that was good. That was so good, man.
I like that story. That was one of my favorite stories. I did like the 48 egg sandwiches story, which was really fun.
Oh yeah.
It's just like, who orders 48 egg sandwiches? And I was like, a drunk person going through the line at Cookout is going to go, can I get 48 quesadillas? And a Coke? Oh, yeah. Can I get a Coke, too?
Yeah.
Some of those hash browns. I'll get a hash brown. Well, you guys don't have that? I got to go to get the All-Star Denny's.
We haven't exchanged our currency. Well, Joey.
Yep.
What kind of announcements and what things do we got coming up, brother?
Well, this week we want to thank you all for all of our Patreons for listening, for hopping in. We want to let you know that we've got some stuff coming up. Next week, I will be heading to the beach, so we're recording 4 episodes in the span of a week. And I'll be heading to the beach and getting our first character for our Patreon recorded and then set up hopefully by in a week or 2. We'll have that video for you guys for our Patreon listeners. So if you want to see these videos, we'll set up a few different little clips for you on Instagram and TikTok, but we're going to keep that strictly for Patreon, so can't wait to do that. We are going to be going to Hopkinsville, Kentucky in 2 weeks to do a paranormal investigation with beer, booze, and boogeymen. Gil and I will be busy, to say the least, so we are excited to get into that. And we will still be getting those episodes. That's why we're doing 4 in a week. And so we appreciate all of you who have donated, all of you who've gotten on our Patreon, all of you who are wanting to see us. And if you haven't donated, it ends today. You won't be able to hear this before it ends. But you can hop onto our Patreon, and you can get, if you join our first, I think it's our first $5 tier.
Any tier.
You can get access, any tier. You can get $1 movie night. You can get that tier and get access to seeing us live investigate a house, a haunted house, paranormal in Hopkinsville, Kentucky, the Night House. So please join up and see me and Gil do some of the most ridiculous things we'll ever probably do in our life. So, thank you. Turn it over to Gil for any updates on his side.
Yes. Let me see here. Got some pretty awesome shit coming up with episodes. I'm just gonna say it. I'm just gonna fucking say it. One of the OG Black Cat Report hosts, I believe at the time of this, is gonna be coming on the next week and the following week for a very, very special 2-part series, which hints were dropped about during this episode. Love if you tuned in. Love if you watched. And it's going to be pretty fucking awesome. And this, I think, Joey, I want to say, based off the reading and the research that I've been doing lately, this is going to lead up to probably damn near close to a month of the evil side of UFOs, the evil side of investigations, the evil side of extraterrestrials, something we haven't necessarily focused on in terms of a theory, an approach, a perspective on things, but we're going to be digging in. And a lot of it, I'm going to be honest, a lot of it is going to be based off of revelations that have come out recently via Lou Elizondo's new book, Imminent. We were going to be covering it, but then literally, everybody and their mom did book reviews on it, and we're like, yeah, that's not us. We're not going to fucking...
We're not jumping on the train.
No, fuck that bandwagon, you know? But we did take aspects of hints and things that he said during interviews, very keywords, and we've been expanding on it. And I want to say October is going to be a dark, spooky month. So, I'm looking forward to that. And I guess one very final last thing. September 28th at about 7 p.m. Eastern Time, 6 p.m. Central. And if you're on the West Coast, I don't know, 3 weeks ago on Tuesday or some shit, you can figure that out. There will be a very special episode of Beer, Booze, and Boogeymen live from the Night House. It's going to have Joey, Kristen, Damien, and myself all in one room, all at the same time, taking calls, hanging out, and doing an episode before we launch, and we go offline for folks that haven't donated or joined Patrons. And you can also join Kristen's Patreon. That'll get you in too. For anybody that doesn't have access, we'll be doing that for a little bit. and then we'll be hopping in to the actual investigation. So please, if you get a chance, join us, because it's gonna be fun. Other than that, I got nothing, Joey. I got nothing.
All right. Well, let's end our episode with our favorite.
We love you, and
Bye.
bye.